Hey guys, James MCD Reviews here, and I am very sorry to report that after a year's worth of having a consistent upload schedule, I broke my monthly streak of Ketchup reviews. I know I'm just as disappointed as you guys are, and I don't want to sit here and make excuses. But I'm gonna make excuses. First and foremost, after my Rocky CBL series, I took a little hiatus to catch up on schoolwork and get everything sorted for my graduation. Yes, amazingly, I'm graduating soon. Then the good folks over at TTFT invited me to be a part of their March Movie Madness game show, so I focused all my attention toward promoting that. All the games and the live award ceremony are up on their channel, so be sure to check them out and subscribe to all the other creators who were involved. Then I flew my friends out for the weekend for spring break, which was a ton of fun, but there was a lot of prep work that went into that. Point is, I've been very busy, but now I'm back with another Ketchup review, covering all the movies I saw in February and March. Knock at the Cabin is the newest film from M. Night Shyamalan. After 2021's Old, and as trailers were coming out, I was excited to see how this movie would play out. And after watching it, it was pretty decent, almost to a disappointing degree in that it's not more insane. I mean, it still has many of the standard Shyamalan-isms, like the extreme close-ups, characters looking directly into the camera, awkward line delivery, but I think this movie was elevated by having another person writing the script so the dialogue between the characters sounded more natural. On top of that, the acting is pretty solid in this one, with Dave Bautista being a standout for sure. He plays a very different type of character than we're used to seeing, and he delivers a very solid performance. Does everything work? No. The story has a lot of conveniences, and the twist was a lot more obvious this time, but overall, it was still an alright sit. 3.5 out of 5. 80 for Brady stars Lily Tomlin, Jane Fonda, Rita Moreno, and Sally Field, and is based off the true story of four elderly friends trying to get to the Super Bowl, and it was exactly what you'd expect it to be. If you've seen the trailer, you've probably made up your mind whether or not you're interested in seeing this, or you're like me and you're going to see it so you can talk about it for a YouTube video. In terms of my viewing experience, it was fine. I saw it with my girlfriend and one of her friends, and we got some laughs out of it. It was a pretty typical hijinks movie with some decent humor and a few sweet moments, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again. 3 out of 5. Harley Quinn's very problematic Valentine's special is exactly what it sounds like. An hour-long Valentine's Day episode of the Harley Quinn animated series. And whoever decided to make this deserves a fucking raise. As you guys know, I love the Harley Quinn animated series. Season 3 was just alright, but this episode really picked up the slack. If you were to tell me when I first started watching this show that I would eventually see a giant Bane rampaging through Gotham and fucking buildings, I would say, yeah, that sounds about right, but I don't think I would believe it until I saw it. This episode is very funny, very raunchy, very well written, but also still heartfelt. The story centers around Harley trying to give Ivy the best Valentine's Day ever in her own usual Harley way, but Ivy, just kind of wanting to have a chill day at home, has to put up with her shenanigans before she finally realizes what she does is more than enough. The one constant for a lot of Season 3, including this episode, is that it does kind of feel like Harley and Ivy just keep having to learn the same lessons over and over again. That can be a bit tiresome, but I think the comedy more than makes up for it. A very hilarious and entertaining way to spend Valentine's Day. 4 out of 5. She Came from the Woods is directed by Eric Bloomquist and is about a group of camp counselors who accidentally unleash a deadly evil on the last day of summer camp and have to find a way to destroy it. When the cursing and the gore started happening, it did catch me by surprise because I didn't look at the rating, but after a while, it just kind of got old. There are some aspects of this movie that fall under the so bad it's good category, like the over-the-top acting, the bad writing, the crazy kills, but over time, you just kind of grow numb to it, and you're just waiting for the movie to be over. I feel like because a majority of the movie is played straight, with over-the-top moments spliced in, there's a clashing of tones that doesn't really fit. More than anything else, it was just kind of boring. Even now, I'm struggling to think of things to say. This may work as part of a bad movie night, but beyond that, I'd say just skip it. 2.5 out of 5. Infinity Pool is directed by Brandon Cronenberg and is about a couple staying in a resort that, through a series of events, ends up arrested and sentenced to death. However, thanks to advancements in technology, they're able to have exact clones of themselves made, and it's not quite clear whether the main or the clone is dying. And the more clones get made, the more their personality starts to fade. This newfound immortality leads them down a dark and violent path that they struggle to get out of. I liked this movie, but I wanted to love it. The concept was very intriguing, and the visuals were very intense, and the performances were pretty solid. But I don't know, something about this movie just didn't sit with me, and I can't for the life of me figure out what. Maybe it was a bit too long, maybe the story had a few too many threads that didn't really go anywhere. Maybe the visuals were a bit too overstimulating that it was hard to get a grasp on what was going on. Like I said, it's not a bad movie and there are things I like, but for some reason I walked out of it feeling kind of underwhelmed. But don't let me stop you from checking it out because you might get some more out of it than I did. I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey is a real movie that I saw in a real theater. After Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain and after the trailer went viral online, Blood and Honey got a one-night-only theatrical release on February 15th. And immediately I was like, hey babe, you want to see the Winnie the Pooh horror movie for Valentine's Day? Yes, it is a real movie. Look, I'm not going to pretend this movie is good. It's not. It's very stupid, poorly written and acted, cheaply filmed, and clearly is just coasting off of one joke that wears off pretty quickly. Was I entertained by it? Yeah, kind of. Maybe I'm just a simple man and I have a soft spot for dumb slashers, but this movie kept my attention despite its flaws. I thought the backstory for why Pooh and the gang went feral and started killing people was funny. I thought there were some genuinely kind of gut-wrenching kills. And the guy playing Christopher Robin takes the shitty material he is given and fucking runs with it. At the very least, you can tell that everyone on set was having fun with what they were making. I don't think this needed a theatrical release. They probably could have put this on YouTube or VOD and it would have gotten the same effect. But seeing this in a theater made for an entertaining date night, and the icing on the cake was at the very end credits reading, "Winnie the Pooh will return." Does this mean Pooh is confirmed for Kang Dynasty? Like I said, the movie is stupid and poorly made, but I was entertained by it. For objectivity, I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5. Speaking of killer bears, Cocaine Bear is directed by Elizabeth Banks and is based on the real story of a failed drug smuggling incident in 1985. After a black bear ingests about 35 pounds of the white powder, he goes on a violent coke-fueled rampage through this park, and hijinks ensue. Much like Blood and Honey, this movie has no false pretenses. You know exactly what you're getting just by looking at the title, and it does a good job giving you exactly what you're looking for. My one criticism is that I don't think it went far enough. I know this could probably be chalked up to budget restraints, but I was kind of expecting it to be more unhinged. Like Terrifier 2, only instead of a killer clown, it features a drugged out bear. There are some scenes that cross that threshold, like the two children eating cocaine off a switchblade, and a lot of over-the-top kills. But again, whether it be for budget reasons or studio notes, they didn't go as far as they probably could have. That doesn't detract from the movie at all, and it's still an entertaining ride. The cast does great, the script was well written, the action was over the top. What else do I need to say? It's Cocaine Bear. I'd give it a 4 out of 5. Jesus Revolution is directed by John Irwin and Brett McCorkle and is based off the real-life Jesus movement of the 1970s and centers around a pastor, played by Kelsey Grammer, learning to accept hippies and allowing them into his church. I was admittedly pretty interested in this movie from the trailer, and for the first 2 acts, I was actually with it. The story was really engaging, and the unlikely friendship that forms between Grammer's pastor Chuck and Lonnie Frisbee carries you through it. It's nice to see a faith-based movie that isn't focused on brainwashing or shaming people for what they do or have done. I found that really refreshing and genuine. But as the movie kept going, it was pretty tired and a bit unfocused. There seemed to be a lot of subplots that just sprung out of nowhere, like the fallout between Chuck and Lonnie, Lonnie's failing marriage. The subplot with Joe Courtney's character, Greg, was just really uninteresting to me. And overall, it just kind of ran about 20 minutes too long. But overall, of the few faith-based movies I've seen, this one is definitely on the higher scale, if for no other reason because of the acting, directing, and visuals. 3.5 out of 5. Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre, is directed by Guy Ritchie and is about a group of special agents who recruit a big-name Hollywood actor to go on an undercover mission to stop a deadly weapons trading deal. It's your standard action espionage flick with a bit of humor and some Guy Ritchie flair, so it was an okay sit. I think the cast definitely elevates the movie and keeps it from getting stale. They all have really good chemistry and timing off each other. You can tell this is a team that's been doing this for years. Hugh Grant is especially entertaining in how infatuated he gets with the actor. The action is fun, the humor is fun, the movie is fun, it's just nothing really special. Check it out if you want, and I'd give it a 3 out of 5. 65 stars Adam Driver as a pilot who crash lands on Earth 65 million years ago. Him and a little girl who is also on the ship now have to traverse this dangerous, unknown planet in order to get home. It's essentially Jurassic Park mixed with Logan, and if you couldn't tell by the description, it's pretty dumb. I thought the designs of the dinosaurs looked pretty silly, the VFX looked kinda bad, it felt very slow and meandering, the tension didn't feel as strong, and ultimately, the movie was just kind of boring. Like, I would have been fine with how dumb it was if it was at least fun to watch, but it really wasn't. Save for a few decent performances from Adam Driver and Ariana Greenblatt, there was nothing really keeping me invested. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. 3 out of 5. Scream 6 is, you guessed it, the 6th film in the Scream franchise, following the events of the previous film that came out last year. I really liked the last Scream movie. It wasn't perfect, but it was fun and enjoyable. I also say that with the caveat of me having not seen the other Scream movies. This one I enjoyed as well. It had a lot of the same stuff I liked from the last one, I just didn't think it was as good as the last one. It still has the self-aware edge that mocks a lot of slasher movie tropes, makes fun of long-running franchises, and even works that into the drama with one of the characters. Although I do feel like for all its talk about franchises having no rules in terms of character deaths, this still kept it pretty safe with the people that did die. I thought the actors were all great, there were some good kills, there were some funny callbacks. What else can I say? It's a Scream movie. Can't wait for the 7th one to take him to space. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. Shazam! Fury of the Gods is the sequel to Shazam, starring Zachary Levi, and is one of the last remaining threads of the DCU left before James Gunn's universe reset. I really liked the first Shazam when it came out, but I don't know if it was because it was a legit good movie or because the rest of the DC's movies at the time were so bad that it just felt a lot better by comparison. In any case, Shazam 2 is pretty much exactly the same as the first one, and that's both kind of a strength and a weakness. I think Critical Drinker said it best in his video. The first Shazam came out at a time where DC needed a hit to get people back on board, so they played it safe and lighthearted. But now that the whole universe is about to be reset, it isn't really the time to play it safe. This movie has pretty much the same morals and story as the first one, just on a slightly larger scale. And they do that story fine, it's just something we've already seen. The actors do fine, the humor has its moments, the action is fun. It's overall a fine movie, but it's nothing I'm gonna remember after this whole reset happens. By the way, what's next from DC again? Oh boy, that's gonna be an interesting one. But yeah, Shazam 2 was fine, check it out if you want, I'd give it a 3 out of 5. John Wick Chapter 4 is, if you couldn't tell, the 4th film in the John Wick franchise. It's amazing to me that after 4 movies, the John Wick films are still fun and exciting. You'd think after each film they wouldn't be able to top themselves, but they pull it off every single time, and here is no exception. With a runtime of nearly 3 hours, this is easily the largest film in the franchise, and I mean that in every aspect. There are some incredibly epic and creative action set pieces in this movie. From a scene where it's basically John Wick and a bunch of guys playing Frogger around the Arc de Triomphe, where they're constantly getting hit by cars, to this awesome looking top-down sequence with dragon breath shotguns. The fight scenes in this movie are some of the most electrifying in the franchise. The film also looks so stunning and sleek. The cinematography and set design are fantastic. The acting in this is also great too. Keanu kills it as always, but we also have Donnie Yen in this movie playing another blind assassin, and he offers some really badass moments. Shamir Anderson and his dog are also a really good addition, and Bill Skarsgård does a good job as the villain. Speaking of actors, I might be teetering on spoiler territory with this, but I felt like I needed to say it. I know this movie was planned out years in advance, and the recent passing of Lance Reddick, who played the concierge, is both tragic and sudden, but still, that doesn't make what happens in the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie any less awkward or uncomfortable. If you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. Aside from that, I honestly don't have any complaints. This film not only manages to be the best out of all the sequels, but it comes ever so close to topping the first one. Check it out if you haven't already. I'd give it a 4.5 out of 5. Champions is directed by Bobby Fairley and is about a down-on-his-luck basketball coach who, after getting arrested for drunk driving, gets court-ordered to coach a special needs basketball team and help them get to nationals. This is a sweet, dumb crowd pleaser. It's not meant to be anything spectacular. It's just meant to make you feel good, and for the most part, it did that for me. I like the bond that builds between the basketball teammates and Woody Harrelson's character Marcus. They both teach each other and help each other in various ways. I thought the performances were pretty solid. I thought there were a lot of comedic highlights. The only thing I didn't like was the stereotypical will they won't they between Harrelson and Caitlin Olsen. Not only is it really dumb and cliche, but the amount of times they break up and make up just killed this movie's pacing. Other than that, the movie was endearing enough. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5. I also watched Inside. I made you some content. Surprisingly not far off. I watched the 2023 Inside, starring Willem Dafoe and directed by Vasilis Katsipis. That, much like Bo Burnham's Inside, centers around a man being trapped inside a single location as he progressively loses his sanity. and his clothes. This movie takes a very different approach in that it's a lot more morose and dreary. It opens really tense as he breaks into this place and steals a few art pieces, but then triggers the security system and gets locked inside. I like seeing how mentally and physically deteriorated Defoe gets as the movie reaches its climax. I like how far he goes and how he tears this house apart trying to escape. And I like how they don't really make it clear if he did get out. The cinematography is really disorienting and Defoe's performance is really captivating. The movie does run a bit long and there are a few aspects that feel like they should be more significant that don't really factor into anything. Other than that, I thought the movie was pretty solid. 3.5 out of 5. Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves is the new fantasy action-adventure comedy based on the role-playing game of the same name. Admittedly, I haven't played the game, it's never really been my thing, so I don't know if I'm the right person to review this. But my girlfriend has gotten into D&D recently, and she really liked this movie. So I imagine if you play the game and enjoy it, you will probably have fun with this movie. It at least feels like it was made by people who have played, like, and understand the game, unlike the 2000s one with Jeremy Irons. The writing and banter between the characters definitely feels like the type of banter that a group of friends would say to each other around a table. At times it can be a bit Marvel-y, but I think the chemistry between the characters and the actors makes it feel more natural. I thought there were some fun scenes. I thought that scene where they were talking to all the dead people was really funny. The action was well shot, save for some corny VFX. The only thing that was kind of dragging it down for me was the story. Like I said, I've never played the game, so I don't know if this is based on a particular campaign, but the story felt very long, meandering, and monotonous. It was very fetch quest and exposition heavy, and it got really tired really fast. I feel like you could have shaved off at least 20 minutes of this movie, and it would have been fine. Beyond that, I thought the movie was just alright. I don't think it's bad by any means, but I was expecting to enjoy it more than I did. Let me know what you guys thought about it. I'd give it a 3 out of 5.
And you know what? Fuck it. If Letterboxd wants to include this, then so am I. I watched Dare to Dream, the Luis Pineda story. This is a 9-minute mini-doc produced by Misfits Boxing, telling the story of fan-favorite YouTube boxer Luis Alcaraz Pineda. It was pretty well made for the most part. It was very clearly personal. Up until this point, we've only really known Pineda as kind of a meme. He lost his first fight under the label of a professional boxer and was brought back as a mystery fighter and earned his redemption in spectacular fashion. And seeing where he comes from and hearing his story and his motivations for fighting makes those wins hit so much harder. I know YouTube boxing can be a bit of a joke sometimes, but this is unironically an inspiring story. I'm glad to see Pineda achieve the GOAT status he has, and I hope he remains a staple of Misfits for a while. 4 out of 5. Thank you guys for watching this very late catch-up review. Let me know in the comments what you've been watching, and let me know if you want me to start doing these every 2 months instead of every month. Check out all the videos I've made over the past couple months, and look forward to even more coming soon.